Hey up everyone, hope we're all doing well. Now if you're an MMA fan, you're more than likely familiar with the name Mokaev. For those who aren't aware of who Mokaev was, he was a former flyweight fighter in the UFC, but unfortunately for him, he got sacked just last year. And the reason why Mokaev is relevant in this situation is because he turned up to a power slap event, which Dana White has a massive hard on for, can't shut the fuck up about it. He's constantly bragging about how good the numbers are, yet we've seen no proof of the numbers, but regardless, let's not go into that. Mokaev went up to one of these events, which is obviously very tied in with the UFC and Dana White, and he was there to spectate that event, to which Dana White spoke about Mokaev. Now, because Mokaev was in attendance, of course Dana White got asked about Mokaev, given the situation of him getting sacked and, him being at the event, which again has close ties with Dana White. So people will speculate, oh, what's the crack there? Are you on good terms? What is it? To which Dana White was like, yeah, we're not re-signing him. I didn't see him. I didn't speak to him. He doesn't get on with the matchmakers, so we're not going to re-sign him. And for a lot of people, and on paper, that makes a lot of sense. Someone gets sacked from a job, they don't really get that job back quite soon. Maybe it takes a bit of time to heal what's ever gone on, or however the situation has been. And with Mokaev, it might have been a bit different because he was in the flyweight division, he was undefeated, he was a big prospect. I believe he's only 24, and in that flyweight division, the current champion is Alexander Pantoja, and it just feels like he's got no one to really face in that division. The rumors are that he's going to be taking on Kai Kara-France, who he did meet in the Ultimate Fighter, I believe, but I don't think that goes on his record. But regardless, he has beat Kai Kara-France before. He's beat Brandon Moreno, 2 or 3 times? I think it's 3 times. He's beat Brandon Royval twice as well, who's also at the top of the division. Who else has he just beat? Kai Asakura. He's beat many names. He's beat Manal Cap, who's another one who could be up there again. So he's beat many names in that flyweight division, and there's not many fresh faces in that flyweight division that Pantoja can take on. So when you got Mokaev there, who's undefeated, and yes, he wasn't the most fun to watch, he wasn't the most entertaining to watch, but regardless, he was beating everyone, and he had wins over Manal Cap and Alex Perez. He was probably like another win away from a title shot. You probably could have justified him getting a title shot after his win against Manal Cap, and he got the sack. And it just makes you think, well, if the flyweight division is in this situation where they haven't got many competitors for Pantoja, any fresh faces, then wouldn't you bring back Mokaev, who's still young, undefeated? You could market a lot because, again, young, undefeated, that's always a great way to market someone if they're young and undefeated. And then do Mokaev versus Pantoja, but it seems Dana White doesn't like that idea at all. And don't get me wrong, I do understand the reasoning to why he got the sack and why they're not letting him back, or at least being reluctant to him joining back the UFC. But at the same time, Bryce Mitchell just last week, with what he said, you know what I mean? You talk about, oh, he didn't get on with the matchmakers. John Jones doesn't get on with his wife, mate. He does some bad things to his wife, There's a lot of dirtbags in the UFC who do some very, very scummy things, but still have a job. You employ Greg Hardy. You know what I mean? Like, come on. So it's like, oh no, he falls out of the matchmakers and can be a bit of a ball ache behind the scenes. Yes, I completely understand, but then at the same time, you also employ these other people who must be a nightmare when it comes to PR and whatnot, and just being scumbags in general. Like, Mokaev, yeah, he might be a bit of a wanker behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, it's not like he's, doing anything to harm someone or anything like that. At least not that I'm aware of. Maybe there's some stories there, who knows? But you know what I mean? I just feel like it is a bit harsh. I can respect it, but then it's got to be, if you're going to do that, it's got to be implemented across the entire roster, in my opinion. Get rid of all these people who are all wankers behind the scenes, not just Mokaev. Maybe it was an excuse to get rid of Mokaev, considering, again, he wasn't really the most entertaining to watch. I mean, his UFC debut started off electric with his win over Cody Durden, and that was it, really. And then he got a few finishes, and people are like, oh, he got finishes. Just because you get finishes doesn't mean it was entertaining necessarily. Like, I'm pretty sure he was losing or one apiece against Tim Elliott as well before he got to finish fair. And Tim Elliott, don't get me wrong, a decent little gatekeeper, but and then the Alex Perez fight, when he got a step up in competition against Alex Perez, wasn't that entertaining. Again, it was quite shite compared to like Tatsuro Taira, who got the finish in like the second round, who was another prospect. And then you also had the fight against Mokaev, where it was just pure. I went to UFC 304. Everyone was really excited for this. I remember everyone was saying this should be on the main card because he got demoted to like the for the first fight of the prelims, and everyone's like, this deserves to be on the main card. Two top flyweight prospects. There's a heated rivalry right there, and they were barking each other. We got in the octagon, and it was a fucking shit fest. It was super boring. Mokaev went into his phase where he's very hesitant, reluctant, doesn't really throw much, and Mokaev was playing it super safe, and even gave Mokaev a wedgie, and that was the talking point of the entire fight, giving Mokaev a wedgie. Like, that's how the fight played out, and that was the last time we saw Mokaev in the UFC. And then most recently, Mokaev in December improved to 13-0, where he got a win in the first round via submission on a brand called Brave CF. So, I mean, he's picked up another win in another organization. Maybe if he can keep on picking up wins, he can get back to the UFC. It's very clear that Dana White and all the other staff at the UFC really aren't a fan of his. But if he can pick up multiple wins, it's not like an old fighter either, like someone who's at the end of a career, like 38 or something, try and get it back in the UFC for one last run. No, this is a guy who clearly wants to be back in the UFC. He's made it very vocal. He wants to be in the UFC. He wants to be a UFC champion. At one point he was saying he wanted to be the youngest UFC champion of all time as well. He's not able to do that anymore, but still there's a possibility he could become a UFC champion. Do I think he'll beat Pantoja? No, I think it'll be too early for him, but still, we need fresh faces in that flyweight division. Mokaev, that's an easy solution right there, but I do believe he's going to have to get multiple fights this year and win them all, obviously, and I believe he's very capable of doing that. But I had a small feeling in my gut that yes, Mokaev will come back this year, maybe make his return to the UFC the end of 2025, but after what Dana said, I don't think we're going to see him all of 2025, and I think maybe we'll see him 2026. If they're being very stubborn and very harsh, maybe we'll see him in 2027. But you just know that Mokaev is desperate to get back in the UFC because he willingly went to a power slap event. The guy is not with the UFC and willingly went to a power slap event. No one's willingly going to power slap events. It's usually just UFC fighters because it's like in the contract, like, you got to do some fucking promotion for that shitty little thing we've got going on. Do that little side quest for us, please, mate. A miscellaneous quest, please, sir. You know, like, but he's not with the UFC. You know, he just went there to kind of like rub the right way of Dana White, and it's not worked for Mokaev, unfortunately for him. But that's it from me, guys. A nice little update on what's going on with Mokaev. What do you guys think will happen? When do you reckon we'll see him in the UFC? Do you reckon the UFC will just never bring him back? What do you guys think is going to happen next with Mokaev? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.